The Eagles beat the Packers 22-10, Kevin. What were your takeaways from your squad advancing?
Man, I was ready for this game, fellas. From the jump, I told Alyssa, I said, it's time to get the Henny out. It's gonna be a good game. From the kickoff, putting dudes on their ass, fumbling, and I said, Alyssa, we're going to the Super Bowl. Right here and there. That just solidified it. We're ready to go. And there's been a lot of people reaching out to me saying, Kevin, Jalen didn't do this. Jalen didn't do that. Well, you know who did do all this and all that? Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, 4 picks, 2 guys that everyone would say before this season, or still might say it, that they're both better than Jalen Hurts.
$50 million guys, too.
Jalen Hurts is moving on in the playoffs. And Kevin, look at the stats. 13 for 21, 131 catches, or 131 yards and 2 touchdowns. You guys have to understand, Kellen Moore has literally had to turn shit into pizza for 3 weeks. 2 games with Kenny Pickett and 1 game with Tanner McKee. He has had to turn this offense to elementary school routes. And I can definitely see that he kind of carried that over into the playoffs, because I don't know if you saw, Shaun, but Dan Orlovsky posted a video of all the passing plays, and you would have thought the Packers were in the huddle. Every route they're on, they're doing everything, and people want to say AJ Brown had 1 catch, Devontae Smith had 4 catches, Dallas Goedert had 4, and at the end of the day, we won the game. And can Jalen Hurts go out there and throw for 356, 3 touchdowns, and 23 completions? That's a familiar game, because I'm talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers game where he came out and said, you like that? Or is this what you've been waiting for? This is what you guys wanted? We see him do it. And if we need to go out there and have a shootout, we can shoot them with the best. Hands down. We have one of the best offenses in the game. And for all the people that are sending me the A.J. Brown reading this book thing, he's done it all season. All season. There's been games where he's had 125 yards, and he's sitting there reading his book. It's easy to point fingers. All I've heard on all the talking heads is Jalen Hurts this, Jalen Hurts this. Everyone gives Jordan Love a pass because they don't have a number 1 receiver. Everyone gives Justin Herbert a pass because he's a pretty boy from Oregon. I get it. You guys just don't like the Eagles, and that's fine. Let me get off the offense. This defense. I remember vividly when we did the preseason show, and I said we're getting the defensive rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year, and Toddy said, and I told Toddy, top 5 offense, top 5 defense, ladies and gentlemen. He laughed in my face. Said, Kevin, you guys lost 6 games in a row. You think you're going to turn it around? I said, yes, we're going to turn it around. And we did. Forcing 4 turnovers. Quintanamo Bay travels to the playoffs, baby. First career pick. We had Darius Slay get a pick. We're really making things happen. And for us to give up 10 points on 11 drives, the Packers were averaging 28 points per game, the 10th best offense in the NFL. They came to Philly, and, it just couldn't work. So you got to tip your hat to Vic Fangio and Nolan Smith. Everyone thought Nolan Smith was just a waste of a first-round pick. For him to get 2 sacks in his first playoff start, we're looking pretty good. And now, unfortunately, we have to end the Rams Disney Channel movie, and that's just kind of it is what it is.
For our audio, I'm sorry. Shaun brought out a book called Self-Discipline, and he was reading it while Kevin was going through his soliloquy. Very reminiscent of what was going on the sidelines. I guess I'll just kind of get into the game a little bit. From the first play of the game, bam, fumble. I was rooting for the Eagles because I was financially invested in them.
It's okay to say you're a fan, Toddy.
I had financial investment. So when they kind of just jumped on him right in the game, I was like, oh, it's going to be one of those games. They scored early. Kevin and I were talking about the guy that they got from the Commanders.
Jahan Dotson.
Mr. Jahan Dotson showed up and came out of nowhere. You would have thought that there was a typo in the stat sheet when you saw a touchdown in his name. But I thought the Eagles defense played really well. They were able to force, 4 turnovers, Kev?
Yes, sir.
I thought that the Eagles' lead should have been a lot more off of those 4 turnovers because they had really good field position, I thought, after those turnovers, but weren't really able to score touchdowns. I feel like that's my only gripe with them. They looked pretty fresh. Jalen Hurts came out. I don't think he played bad necessarily. I just thought he didn't make the most of his opportunities when they were given all those turnovers pretty much. So Saquon did what Saquon does. I feel like this was more of a run. It was smash mouth football for the Eagles. They were pretty much able to push their D line back, and Saquon was able to do what he wanted to do. Saquon could have had 180, almost 200 yards if he would have broke that touchdown that he had nothing but green grass in front of him, but decided to be a gentleman, have a good sportsmanship, I guess, and slide. But there's half of the world was screaming at him because he was the most bet person to score a touchdown, and he slid at the end. So, unfortunately, I did not diverge into investing into Saquon Barkley on scoring a touchdown. I'm glad I didn't, but he played his ass off. Obviously, we saw, Shaun was just reading a book. A.J. Brown only had 1 catch for 10 yards. It's not nothing, but it's something. I think it's just something that's just him not getting the ball, speaking to the media, saying, this is when I'm going to come back. This is when I'm going to play. Kevin has mentioned that several times on the podcast about him being Adam Schefter and diagnosing himself for certain injuries. But I think it's just something, that you look at. It's not nothing. I feel like it's something to kind of look at. He didn't have anything. There was like an old video that came out about him just being unhappy and not getting the balls. An old video. But I do think going forward, you're going to need to find ways to get A.J. Brown the ball if you want to continue to win playoff games. Jordan Love, going to the Packer side of things, didn't play well. We've kind of seen it. Last year, he had a hell of a game against the Cowboys. They came to San Francisco, he threw multiple interceptions. Another multi-interception game. Now I get he did have some injuries to his receivers, but that was towards the end of the game. Like they had about 3 full quarters where they weren't really able to do anything against that Eagles defense. So I want to give hats off to Vic Fangio. Called a hell of a game. I think, and most Eagle fans can agree with me, that Kellen Moore has to be better on his side of calling plays. I think getting Saquon the ball should be a priority, but you got guys like Devontae Smith. I mean, even Dallas Goedert, when he got the ball, he scored a touchdown. Like, let's try it. You got a bunch of guys on offense. Let's figure out a way to kind of slice the pie up and let's get these guys the ball. And that's gonna automatically open up the run game anyway. Your run game was working regardless of you not having that good of a passing attack against a solid Packers defense. But when everything's firing on all cylinders, they're going to be a really tough team to beat. And I don't know how much better the Rams are than the Packers going into it. Could I argue their quarterback's better? Perhaps. Has more experience, I would say. Has a Super Bowl ring, obviously. I'm not sure how good their deep. I mean, we kind of saw this move before when they played against the Rams in LA. I mean, Kevin was at the game, so he was pretty much firsthand with it. So the line for that game, the Rams Eagles game, it was at 5.5. It's now at 6.5. So
might get up to 9 by Sunday.
I don't know if it'll get to that much, but they're basically saying they're a touchdown better, and I'm not going to argue with that. I think the line's right. I would like for it to drop, but for gambling purposes. But I think that it's right. It's where it should be at. So yeah, I thought the Eagles I think the Eagles they got away with some stuff because their team's so good. Like they were able to get a bunch of turnovers, but they weren't really scoring off of those turnovers. But I think they were able to do that. They were able to get by doing such thing this week.
Do 3 points not count as scoring?
I mean, Kevin, you would like for them.
You said scoring. I'm just saying if someone didn't know what you were talking about,
that's not going to work going forward. That's all I'm saying. You might be able to get away with it again this week, but when you're going up against Lions,
Toddy, ask me how many turnovers we forced in the last 3 weeks.
Probably a bunch.
17.
It's a lot.
Isn't the point of the game to score more points than the other team? Whether you're by 55 or you win by 1.
You want these teams to hang around, especially in the playoffs. You don't want to leave that back door open. You've seen when you guys leave the back door open, bad things happen.
I mean, Kenny Pick is not coming out there, brother, so we're going to be all right.
Perhaps you're right.
Well, one thing that I'll say that the Rams are definitively better than the Packers at is with their wide receiver core, clearly, because they have 2 guys who could be considered number 1 options. Ladd McConkey may not be a number 1 option, but Cooper Kupp has already proven that he is in the NFL. He's probably on the back end of that just because he's getting older. But Puka Nacua as well has proven that he has the potential. I don't know if I would say that Puka is a bona fide number 1 guy, and I say that just because when I think of number 1 guys, I think of Jamar Chase, I think of Justin Jefferson. And so, Puka can't put himself in that discussion yet, but they both are very talented receivers, and that's something that the Packers just lacked. Josh Jacobs couldn't do everything for the Packers. But Josh Jacobs had a hell of a season. I was really happy to see him have that kind of a season after kind of being in purgatory in Las Vegas. And so now the Packers are moving on to Cancun as the Eagles move on to the divisional round. And condolences to Khalil and all of the cheeseheads who have now seen their season come to an end.